Okay. Good call. That would have been, I'm used to the other side. I've done them this way, obviously, too, quite a bit. But yeah, I'm
You've
ready.
had so much success. This is all perfect, by the way. Uh, this is Sam Taggart, ladies and gentlemen. He is a 400 plus account rep. He's been featured on Forbes. He's been on just BuzzFeed. He's a real estate like just investor. I'd say kind of like a mogul in a way because he has like dozens and I'd say probably hundreds of rentals. When it comes to the D2D podcast, he is a 400 plus account rep. He trains and scales other companies throughout the world and improving their sales process and their system so they can be able to articulate their vision and their sales process so they can systemize it. So what the CEO knows, what the top producers know, Sam could probably outsell them in a way where they'll make more money if they're fortunate enough for him to take on their business, Sam himself, because he's very busy. I'm fortunate to have you on the podcast, by the way, Sam. Thank you. Just in the Life by Design podcast, so that
Love
we
it.
can expand our minds and just kind of create more success. And I mean, you have a track record that is just extremely impressive. I went, did a little bit of research. Wish I would have done a bit more, but you're super young too. You're not. Are you 30? Are you even 30 years old?
Yeah, I'm 32.
Yeah, I thought you were like 27 or 28.
That's good, dude. I'm trying to stay young. The older I get, the younger I'm starting to look, which is helpful. If I shave my beard, I look like I'm 12. So it's definitely. Thank you.
You're an amazing person, man. Um, like I have so many questions for you, and I'm fortunate that we have a little bit of time together. In the past, we've brought on guys that have raised billions of dollars. Brad Blazer. We've just brought on a lot of other entrepreneurs that are just really, really awesome. Today we have you, Bob Berg. And how is it that you yourself, like, because your vision for the world on a global scale and for the future, before you started like getting to that level, how did you raise yourself from like failure to success in selling? Because it says that all good things come from heaven, so that other people can model, your legacy, your success. James 1:17, and just like a clean-hearted, just amazing, just key top performer, top producer, just a master at his craft. So how can other people model that so they can kind of like expand their own legacies in their life and be able to just receive results that are probably at the top like 0.001%, like all together collectively, if I may kindly, if
Yes,
you please as well, please.
I great question. It's something I'm really passionate about. For the last 2.5 years, I've been writing a book called The Achievement Framework, where it's really a model to say, how do you achieve whatever you want in life, business, sales. Obviously, the application, and I've applied it to a lot, has been business and sales and things like that, fitness, other things. And now I'm writing the second, kind of the sequel to that, which is Expand, and it's a human development system. And really simple like model that I've applied in my life that goes, you simply say, what's the goal? So I say, play the game, expand your life, which game stands for goals, accountability, mentorship, and environment. And the concept of this is most people don't know what they want. They don't know why they want to be a top performer. They say they want to be a top performer, but do they really want to be a top performer? They say they want to make $1 million, but do they really want to make $1 million? Like, they don't really understand the goal at its finest. And there's a principle I like to teach, which is called you hold the pen, meaning you design your exact outcome and you manifest like your true results more powerfully than I think most people comprehend. And I've lately been really intentional about my thoughts and what I'm designing and how I'm creating the future. And then you have to build some accountability systems. So it's like you hold the pen, you draw exactly what you want, and you've got to have some accountability in the sense of, if you don't have daily tracking, so take like my fitness. So this morning I work out and I use an app from a fitness coach that'll log all of my weight, my food, my workouts. So I know exactly what my workouts were. So there's accountability there where my next thing, which is the mentor, my fitness coach is sitting there saying, did you log your food? Did you log your thing? Like he's holding me accountable. Every Sunday sends me a form, says, fill this out. I want to know what you did. And I want to see your progress. Send me a photo. You know what I mean? Like he's the mentor, he's the coach, he's the somebody that I am paying. And that's a key piece. Like so many people are too cheap. They're not investing in that mentorship. And then the next one is your environment. It's you reaching out on Instagram and seeing where you can add value. To me, is saying, how do I expand my network? How do I build a circle of higher level people that inspire me to be better, be bigger, think bigger? And so I'm actively, like, I just took a group of CEOs that excite me to Egypt last week, and to be surrounded by really cool people. And I'm going to New York tomorrow to go with all these tech billionaire dudes to go to a party, because I'm like, I just wanted the association to meet these cool people. And I'm constantly looking for opportunities to expand my environment. So that would be the simple framework. What's your goal? What's your accountability system? Who's your mentor? And what's your environment?
And then how was it that you became like a 400 like plus account rep, like with that, like just tying it in just like together?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know I wanted to be the top rep. Like what's funny is that came halfway through the summer. It wasn't like a vision of mine. I was always competitive, but not like, oh, I'm the best. Like, really it came down to a lot of times we think I want to do 400, and I like to reverse engineer that to like, I just care about a week, not about the year. And this is a principle I think is really important. It's like if I do the things, and I could conceptualize a week. I couldn't conceptualize the whole year. And oftentimes we procrastinate. Oh, I'll get it next month. I'll get it next month. I'll get it next quarter, whatever. You can't really procrastinate results every week. It's like come Thursday, come Wednesday, if you're behind, you're like, fuck, like I have to do this. And so I just said, I'm not going to dip below 20 sales every week. And I committed to that. And so the more that I can like kind of micro out all my goals, the more I'm going to stay committed to like the small little things that compound to create bigger results. Because it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't until halfway through the summer that I was like, wait, I'm still the number one rep. Like I wasn't planning on being the number one rep. Like I'm still tracking. Like I'm tracking more than I was expecting. I think I could hit 400. Like I just focused on like, oh, I'm just going to do this every week. And all of a sudden those numbers just got bigger and bigger. And a lot of people had so many peaks and valleys, and I just didn't do that. Like I was just consistent as hell.
When you were consistent as heck, how was it like that the people around you were seeing you perform at higher and higher levels, okay? And how are you able to just like continuously building when you weren't getting the results that you wanted, despite the fact that maybe I don't know if you just like, some people just get into sales and they explode, right? Other people, it takes them time. Like there's a combination of everything. And you've trained all kinds of reps throughout the world, like 180 account reps, 200 account reps, 300 account reps, 400 account reps. How is it like that for yourself? You were able to, at the highest levels, able to perform, and potentially, possibly, collectively, weren't yourself maybe seeing the 20 sales like on a weekly basis right off the back, where you're like, this is what I want to do. So in between that process, because you know you're going to get it no matter what, how was it like that you were able to stay diligent, you get me, and raise your identity and maybe the affirmations and what you'd say yourself, your habits?
Yeah, I think it's really
I have so many questions for you.
no, that's
On a high note.
what people don't realize is there's a time to raise your identity, I call it your waterline. Is, let's say when I first got into it, 7 was my waterline. If I could get 7 in a week, that would be 1 every day, 2 on Saturday, right? And that was my sales numbers. If I could get 7 in a week, I was happy. Then it was 10 in a week. I was like, double digits. I'm gonna get double digits. And then it was 12 in a week. It was like, that's 2 every day. If I can get 2 every day. Then it was like 17 in a week. Then it was 20. I hit the 20 mark, and my waterline was it was like, pop. I was like, oh, I could do 20 in a week. And I called both know, and I said, hey, I should get a t-shirt, like the heavens should open up. I did 20 in a week. That's a big deal. And he's like, why don't you just do that every week? And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I didn't think about that. And so it's just, I decided to change my waterline. But what people don't see is there was the Sam version doing 7 every week. What they only see is my highlight reels, not the 7 a week, because nobody talks about those days. Nobody talks about the 10 a week days. Nobody cared who Sam was when he was doing 10 a week. Like I was just in the middle of the pack. And people underestimate like that journey of the compounding growth to increase your waterline. Now it would be not okay if I only did 7 in a week. I'd be like, what the freak? Like, that's not me. I'd be frustrated.
How did you raise your identity to that level? Like what are some of the things that allowed that to compound so that some of the dudes that are 180 account reps, 200 account reps, 150, 300 plus account reps can become a 400 account rep? And then
that's a very good question. So what people don't fail to do, what they fail to do is put pressure. So if I'm a 180 account rep, I need to consistently apply pressure to myself. And that could be through competition. That could be through, maybe just like through different goal or like, for example, I put pressure on myself where I bought a fourplex prior to the summer where I had to put a $10,000 non-refundable deposit. And then I had to put $160,000 at the end of the summer. It was a construction loan type thing. And so I applied this external pressure to say, you have to perform at a higher level. And when we apply pressure, that's what creates growth. It's like, that's what, you put pressure, it creates diamonds. And too often there's no pressure to perform above the 180. Therefore they're complacent. Therefore they're feeling enough. You could put ego pressure, you could put, financial pressure, and some people break under pressure. Some people are like, I don't perform well under pressure. I'm like, I would challenge that belief system. I would say, invite the uncomfortable, invite the pressure, because that's what's going to create this expansion. And if you're in idle mode, you're only going to be decomposing slowly, and you're going to get burnt out. You're going to get bored. You're going to get, jaded. You're going to feel like what's moving. So add more pressure if you feel like you keep plateauing.
Gotcha. So that's kind of like why some reasons people say that they'll hit like a certain level, and then when it gets too hot, they get down, and then they have to get to that level again, and then they'll keep making strides versus just adding that pressure. I'm excited for your system, man.
Dude, it's
on the human.
I'm putting this. It's trademark. Like I'm behind the scenes. I'm telling you, but it's built into an entire technology platform that we're working on. And just because my new mission is really, I've helped a lot of people over the years, and I'm passionate about helping people expand their life and expand the lives they lead. And so often people don't have a system to it. And one of the pieces that formula is pressure. And I think too often we live in society today where there's not tigers and bears and wars and coming at you saying, I will take your life away. Back in the old days, it was, I had to survive for my life. Today, you don't have to do much to exist and still have food, shelter, water, government support, whatever that looks like. Your family still probably loves you. You're not getting outcasted, beheaded. Like, we live in a world where there's very little pressure and resistance. So think about that.
And then, gotcha. And then what are some ways, I guess, to like add pressure and resistance for like everybody else, and then people that maybe want to perform at like higher levels as well, like collectively, like a message that you can like share in the middle, like as a CEO, because I know
take risks. Like, I mean, this app, for example, I'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars developing this. Well, it hasn't made a dime. So there's pressure in the sense of, I have to make sure this gets an ROI, or else I'm going to feel like an idiot wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars. Take that, for example, or real estate, or, an investment, competition, a call out. If I called out another top rep, let's say I called out Jordan Belfort. I was like, Jordan Belfort, let's go knock. and we're going to spend a day competing against each other. That put pressure on me right out the gate. I find a competitor and I say, I'm calling you out. Therefore, I'm going to train harder. I'm going to sharpen the saw. I'm going to make sure that I'm freaking in all elements ready for that day, which that journey of training, that journey of preparation is going to be the thing that is increasing my waterline. The day of execution, you know, whatever result happens, win or lose, great. But it was the journey of like, I set an intention, I put pressure on myself. It forced me to play at a higher performance.
And then that's gotcha. And then adding pressure to yourself would just be like, let's say, you know, like for some of these reps that are, I have a buddy named James Castellanos. You may or may not know him. No, he was a 200 account rep at Vivint, and he's one of the ones that's mentoring me now with solar. And I just recently got into his closer role. I'm using him as a model because you are a 400 account rep, and I want to constantly get better. And I'm learning from both you guys. So it's like, how could I myself like put more pressure on like myself? Like, what would be like your multi-billion dollar morning, if you please, now, and for the better of others, you get me. And I also want to ask about your vision for like your life and like for the world and for stuff. I actually wanted to ask that question first, but you know, yeah.
So do you want first, the morning or my vision?
I would like to, I guess, like the vision, if you please. Yeah.
So my vision kind of is to, I'm creating a digital and physical community of industry experts to create expansive experiences and beyond just door to door, where, you know, collectively putting real estate or finance or personal development, yoga, like whatever that is, fitness, where there's a community of event, like think of it like a festival for personal development, and, you know, expanding beyond what I call tier 2 leadership, where a lot of businesses and influencers and things like that, they're very scarce. It's like, I have my community and my niche and I don't want anybody else in it and whatever. I want to break beyond those limitations and say, there's so much out there, and to think that you don't subscribe to other trainers and other sales content and other, you know, influencer, like, why don't we all collectively start hosting events together? Why don't we all collectively start sharing content and collaborating on content together to create the most epic experiences for the people that we lead? And building out this digital platform is going to be a really cool way that creates models for these managers, because a lot of people are like, I'm a manager now, or I just got put in this role, but they have no good frameworks to say, here's how you run one-on-ones, here's how you set goals, here's how you manage your people and keep them accountable. It's all a bunch of like Google Docs, group me messages, and Zoom calls that don't have any kind of cohesive integration when it comes to true leadership systems. And so my mission is to expand people's lives and expand the lives they lead by putting through technology, environment, mentorship systems to really actually quantify that.
What would you describe like your end goal is with that? Because it's gonna do a lot of good for the world. It's gonna yeah, and it could be ever rippling in a positive way, because you're unifying things. People are working in harmony collectively, and now they can focus on other things, and they can just, as a whole, with all 8 billion people plus, they can be able to just scale and do other things, and everybody's raising themselves up because everybody's investing in themselves more, and it's a more collective, educated, unified, in love world, you get me, and then the good will survive, you get me, and the truth will always come out to life, because facts can be altered, they can be changed, but the truth is always the truth, just for everything. So it's like how like, that's such a like brilliant, like brimming thing. Like, what would be like your end goal with it? Because it has so much. It can, yeah, that's powerful.
Life is a journey, right? Like I don't like to think of like destination, like I got to this thing, but a big piece of that is to have an adopted score called the Human Development Score, where it's known globally in the sense of, by quantifying my habits, my goals, my assignments, my education and learning, and collectively creating an AI system that gives you a human development score, it then helps you associate with the right networks. So it's like, hey, recommended environments that you should participate in based on how you show up for the world and how you think and what you consume and how you operate. And it creates a way for employers, it creates a way for coaches, it creates a way for leaders to actually say, how are we quantifying our actual human development? Because so many people are into this personal development, but there's no tracking of like what is actually showing that I am growing, and how do I put that into paper to either show an employer or feel that fulfillment of like progress. Because a lot of people get stuck in this vortex, or they're just like feel like they're plateaued in life, and it'd be nice to give a reflection on how they're showing up based on data. So that would be one end goal. Another one just be like throw massive epic festival events that are just like so fun and life changing for everybody that comes to those, that it's just like it becomes the new pinnacle of like how personal development is perceived, instead of all these like, it's like you have 1,000 events you could go to. What if they just all started like shoving into one? It's like instead of going to like this guy's event and that guy's event, and they're just like, what the freak? Like you're like, wait, I get to see all of them all this weekend? Like what? Like that would be epic.
And value packed. And then
Yeah.
everybody's bringing all their like sales strategies together, and then something new is forming. And Sam's helping take it to a higher level. Dude, you're freaking visionary. Like, I don't know, like I've seen the only role models that I see like that I've drawn from are like Steve Jobs or like Malcolm X or like Martin Luther King,
Don't put me up there, yeah.
and Elon Musk, where it's just like you're doing something that's new. You know, before that with Think and Grow Rich, there was like hundreds of titans. You're one of like today's titans if we are just, you know, honest. And you can see that, and it's just different, and it's just going to take you to like a higher level because of that.
Thanks,
So
man.
I want to continuously upgrade myself at every level, where it's just like, let's say you yourself, you get me for your $1 million morning. One of the things that I want is more structure in my life, because I kind of just got into a level where like I have all these sales skills, but I want to be able to just systemize it more.
And that's why the app exists. It's like, how do you actually put structure to your morning, right? Like how do you have this, what we call like, give you your implementation process. So my morning is really simple. There's a book called Elastic Habits that I really like that teaches a mini, a plus, an elite habit. So I break it into, I've actually created a document that has my mini habits of my miracle morning, my plus, and my elite version. One is 20 minutes, one is 60 minutes, and one is 2 hours. And if like today, I have a 2-hour opportunity. I mean, I was up at 5:30, and I ended up spending 2.5 hours on my morning, because if you count working out, which I don't count that as my morning, like that's not even in my morning ritual, even though that's part of my mornings. So I'll break down my big one, my 2 hours, and it's really like very structured. And it's funny. Yesterday, I actually was with this person in the morning, and I said, "You're going to do my morning routine with me. If you're going to hang out overnight, then we're effing doing the morning." And it's funny. She very much so loved it. And so even to the point, yeah, I could have made the excuse like, shoot, this is a day. I'm just being real and vulnerable. I was like, this is a day where I shouldn't do a morning routine. I was like, no, you're going to do it with me. And so the elite is, I set the environment. So I make my bed. I make sure that the room's clean. I have a Zen, like meditative area in my room. It's really cool. I organize my altar. I have like kind of my memorabilia, not memorabilia. It's like there's signiful tokens that I kind of like mean something to me. One's like an ace of spades, and we don't get into detail all these things. Then I do breath work 5 minutes. I meditate for 20 minutes, and then I go on a hike. It's what's nice about my house. If I'm home, I have my backyard's mountain, and I meditate. Or no, I already meditate at home. So I spread love on the way up. I do a thing called spread love, where I'll send a video message. So yesterday I sent my mom a video message of just, I love you. Like it's a minute or two of just spread the love. I stretch, I do affirmations, I do attitude, gratitude, and then I shake the emotional tree and I do a visualization. So shaking the emotional tree, that sounds weird. It's a practice that I've loved because in sales, a lot of times we're not very in tune with our emotions. And over the last 2 years, I've really gone on a internal journey more so than an external journey. And I feel like I've really stepped into my highest self and found my essence. And I've done that through practicing finding emotions that I kind of shoved under the rug for my whole life, like sadness or anger or guilt or shame or, you know, all these things. I'm like, do I have a real relationship with these? And then I journal 10 minutes, read 20 minutes, pray, plan. And then I read like a spiritual insight. So right now I'm on Jesus is Calling, or I'll have like, you know, As a Man Thinketh is one that I like, or just like I'll find like a kind of a thoughtful insight. Then I'll get home and I'll spend minimum 30 minutes on what's called creator time. And whether I'm writing, journaling, or not journal, I'm writing a book right now, or multiple books. I'll make content. I'll create. Just let yourself create. And sometimes that'll go extensively longer than the 30 minutes, because your mind is in such a prime spot right after you've done this, like no phone, just super dialed, not working morning ritual. And then I'll work out. And then if I do my hike, I cold plunge. So I cold plunge in the lake. It's 0.4 miles. There's a big lake and it's freezing water. And so I cold plunge in it. So I made her do that yesterday. It was awesome.
You do that on like a daily basis?
Yeah.
What the heck, dude? I want to perform at higher levels. You get me? Like I'll have days where like I'll I keep messing up my sleep schedule and stuff. Like I'll stay up sometimes till like 2, 3 in the morning, and I'll be like on like Knockstar or some sales training program, and I'll just like fall and sleep, and then like I'm getting more structure in like my day now.
Yeah, you gotta have
I want to improve every aspect of it, and like and that's pretty much one of the last things. Like I need more structure, because I've read, like I've gone through a lot of courses, like I've had results, like I can sell on the Rift, right? But it's like, but I want to be able to structure everything, you get me, so that I can kind of have like these consistent, like high performing, just like clean hearted, just clean results, like on the highest level, just like possible, like in life. And you know, in the process of just kind of like building my own vision. And it's like, you know, I'm privileged to be around some of these environments, because like being around people like you, like I think anybody, you know, should feel fortunate if they don't already altogether, when they can learn and they can be able to grow. You know, you've had like a level of success that most people in their entire lives, like, you know, they, you know, you have to put in like a certain amount of effort that is most people, you know, they should put in. Like it's bar none. It's like it's leaving an actual legacy. And you haven't even just got started, which is the interesting part.
Give yourself some grace, man. Like, and that's why I call it the mini, the plus, and the elite. That was the elite. That was the 2-hour version. There are times like I travel so much. Like I was home for 3 days and then I'm gone for another 8 days, and I was gone for 8 days. And I go to, like, I'm in a different country, not just state, a different country every month for the next 6 months. And I've had to adapt. I've had to be like, okay, there's times where I'm on a midnight flight and I'm on a red eye and I'm in a hotel and I'm driving and I'm tired and I'm like, what the freak? So by building an elasticity to your structure is important too. That's why I'm like, okay, if I only got 20 minutes, how do I bang out the most simplest version of this in 20 minutes? And that might be on a freaking plane. I just flew from Frankfurt to freaking Germany to here on a 15-hour flight. And I was like, well, why not do my morning routine and my Sunday planning on this flight? It's not in my Zen room in my setting that I normally like. But I'm like, I can meditate on a plane. Why not? And popped in my headphones and did meditation. Like I was still able to build in, or like working out. It's like I put a gym in my house because I'm like, if it's 11 o'clock at night and I haven't got my workout in, I'm like, there's no excuse. It's like you go do the workout. Where I like to work out in the morning, I hate working out in the middle of the day or at night. But if I miss it in the morning, then I'm like, can I find 30 minutes to just get something in today?
So what would that, gotcha, and I could watch the replay. What would be like I guess like a good like standard, like just like, because I've checked out some of your stories and stuff, and they're amazing because it's like there's actual value in it. You like read, you know, you'll visualize, you're getting you'll meditate, you're getting your, so I call it prayer. I'll just pray, you get me, you know, visualize. But it's like I want us to start doing these things consistently. So it's just like for me, yourself, to model it, and for the rest of the world, like how could somebody else like really just break that barrier and just being able to just get more structure, and then these systems will compound because they just inevitably compound, some faster than others depending where they're at.
Take like Duolingo, for example. They have
And then there's no limits.
take like 75 Day Hard, Duolingo. They've all built systems to where nobody wants to restart their streak. No one wants to, I'm on a 32 days and now you have to restart because you didn't do it. So it's like having that kind of commitment to kind of that streak or the consistency over intensity. And if you were to say, sometimes we get overwhelmed around, oh my gosh, I don't have all day I don't have an hour to do the workout. It's like, well, what if you just did a 10-minute workout? Is that wrong? Or a 5-minute workout? Like, is that enough? They're like, but you did it. You stayed consistent, even though it wasn't an hour. Or like, I got a 5-minute meditation, or I just did a minor breath work sitting here in this chair after we do this podcast. I just know that these things are of top priority, because if it's important to you and you understand, like for you, like sleep, you're like, well, I went to bed at 2. Well, if sleep is important to you, you wouldn't be going to bed at 2. So it's like, what's important to you, prioritize. So prioritize the things and make sure that you're staying consistent no matter, regardless when it happened in the day.
And then when you're inside the home, like I wanted to ask you these as well, and being consistent. What are some of the favorite questions when you're in like a sales environment, like to sell a homeowner? Like just like in a general industry, like for myself, like I've had a lot of success, like cold calling and stuff. D2D, I did one summer at Vivint, got like 10 sales. Vivint, you owe me money, but I never got it. It's fine. I think it's because I left like a day earlier. I was couch surfing and stuff there. But it's just like I myself, I kind of like I want to start getting good at sales here. I've been doing D2D for a while. I got my past my sets. Now I'm a closer, and we're in June, and these are some of the best times to sell. And it's like I want to start having a lot more success with some of these homeowners, because sales is like, especially when you're pretty good at it, you can just put your scripts together. You got me. You can do. I need questions, and I'm kind of figuring that last part out now. One of the biggest things that I've struggled with up until now, up to recently, is that I myself want to be able to perform at higher levels, and that's going to take organization and structure. So I have like my visualization board that I rebuilt again. I have like my goals that I set up. I have my morning routine here that now I'm adjusting more into more and more and more, right? And just interrupting that pattern and creating new patterns. So it's just like, how can I want to ask better questions when I'm in the home. You get me, people love me. They just pull me inside the house and stuff. They're like, sit down, young man. I'm like, okay. But, at this point, like I don't have questions. I can't just present, that's like,
Can I give you some feedback? Can I give you some feedback on that?
Altogether, yeah, man.
So go rewatch this and see how you show up in this podcast, in the sense of just how you're curious, like how your curiosity and questions have shown up in this. Because this is recorded, and you'll watch your body language. You'll watch your way that you are asking the questions. And then you're like, okay, maybe I show up similarly when I'm with customers. Maybe I get nervous like this. And so I have these interesting fidgets, or maybe I'm asking 6 questions all at the same time. Like start analyzing yourself. So rewatch this. And, for me, it's read the room is a big part of emotional intelligence, and just like your success in sales. And so if you can be curious and read the room, and before just jumping into it and assuming that ability to kind of sit back and be like, what do they need? Like, what are their questions? What are their concerns? And if I kind of like can sense and be intuitive prior to them, or prior to me talking, and I can just be like, you're probably like super tired of all these solar dudes coming by. Like, it sounds like I'm privileged just to even get in the home, because you've been just discarding everybody, it sounds like. Tell me about that. And you know what I mean? And you saw that in their face. You saw that in their energy, because they're like, not another one. And by you reading into the room, you address it and you sit with it and you ask them that question, where that wasn't in your script. That wasn't framed out. Like, it's just you read them, and you were calm enough and confident enough and poised enough to say, hey, let's talk about that for a second before we dive into like all this other stuff.
Sweet. Okay. I'll do more of that and I'll rewatch it. Thank you, by the way, for that. I don't know why I fidget sometimes, to be honest with you. I honestly don't, but I will try to get more composure and stuff in like every single one of my presentations. That's an exercise for another day.
And that's another day. That's what, guys,
On a coaching call.
if you're listening to this. Yeah, I mean it's a whole world of I get feedback every time I get on a conversation with anybody. It's are we conscious? And this is like key to success. Anybody listening to this. Key to success is when you're in any interaction, you can walk away elevated despite who you're dealing with. And when we're aware of, there's times where like, let's take dating, right? I don't know if you're single or whatever. You go on a date and you're like, let me analyze how I showed up on that date. And you're like, for the next date, I shouldn't be such a jabbermouth, or I need to be more, like every interaction, what we're doing is we're developing. The problem is when we don't have consciousness to the development and the interactions that we're having because we're just coasting through interactions, that's when we just keep getting similar results. So when you asked the question earlier of like, what's it take to get to those higher levels? It's self-awareness around where are my faults? Where am I, and it's not being over analytical or it's not being over critical of yourself. It's just saying, can I see myself through other lenses? Or am I only seeing myself from one lens? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense and more. I myself, when you're in the home, you get me, and I'll take in the feedback, by the way, but I definitely want to ask you these. I could ask them afterwards if you want.
Yeah,
That's like the best of my questions. I want to kind of see your vision. You get me? How do you raise yourself from failure to success in selling? One of the questions that I have is that, what are some of your favorite questions to ask with like a homeowner, like when you are, and on selling, like with the homeowner, like just like a general industry
intro, like
afterwards.
why the heck did you even meet with me? Like, I don't want to waste your time or mine. So why don't we just get to it? Like, why'd you even take the meeting? Like what, like, and it forces them to set their intention. Does that make sense? It's kind of like, oh, I don't know. Like, well, now you have to come up with a reason. And they may know exactly why. Just want to get a quote. I'm really interested, or whatever they answer. Another one is, what would be the main reason you'd be doing this today? That's more towards the end of the sale after you built some value. It kind of be like, it's a pre-close because you're like, well, I don't know if I'm doing this today, or they're like, well, because I really like this and this and this and this, and then it's like, it's a testing of a temperature question. Another way to test that temperature that's a little less bold is, after getting this, what would be the number one thing you'd tell your friend or family member about this? What would you get excited to share about it? And it's like an inadvertent way to get them to tell you what they love. I mean, dude, there's a million and a questions. Like for me, I teach this concept called the inception shovel. And it's basically the ability to implant an idea in someone's head, forcing an answer, but through a question. And it's letting them do the digging versus us do the digging as the sales individual. And so it's just kind of like, oh, like, if you were to think of like a company that would be respectable to go with, like, how many reviews would they need to have? Would it be like 100, 200? Like what's the amount of reviews that's like respectable that you're like, I'm going to go with them? What would it be? Do you see how I made the idea? They're not going to be like 1,000.
What the heck? That's amazing.
They're not going to whip out 1,000. I've already I've implanted this concept. And if I know I have 150 or 300 reviews, I want them to range in that. So therefore I gave them the answer within the question.
Would you share the famous "Can we pay" questions? I know that was like one of them, right? But Sam, yeah.
Yeah. So like, I mean, this comes back from the platinum days of forever ago. So I would simply ask every time at the end of the sale, I did it in solar, I did it in alarms, I did it in roofing. I just say, so the three questions, and the way that you frame this, you would say, hey, in order for us to help you out, like we have a couple questions to make sure that I can cover this or pay this or whatever that is. And so make sure we ask husband and wife, so get them both there, kind of make it a deal, like make it a thing and write it down. And I say, what do you consider yourself a vocal person? Or if you like the product or service, you tell somebody about it. Now, based on the industry that I'm selling, like I've helped windows, roofers, insurance, real estate, all it, and I can apply the framework. And so I then I customize a second one. So it's like, would you use this more when you're home, away, or both? That could be one. Or would you use this like once a day, once a week, all the time, like once a month, only when you travel? And how often would you use it? That might be one. Or like, in solar, like, would you be getting this mainly, or when do you see the highest power bills? In the summer? Like, when's your highest bills? Where did you see the most savings? Summer, winter? Oh, summer for sure. Oh, okay. All I'm trying to do is give another reason for them to tie themselves down. And then the third one is pretty much the same on all the industries, is what would be the main reason you'd be doing this today? Would it be mainly to save money, to help the planet, to go more independent? And they're always like, oh, all those things. Like, oh, why do you say that? And I'll follow it up with that. Those are three powerful framework questions that help kind of guide into a decision at the end of the sale.
Would those be with that and going deeper, all the can we pay questions, or is there like maybe 2-3 more? Like those can we pay questions are amazing, Sam.
Yeah.
I don't know them.
I mean,
I don't know them yet.
I customize them a little bit so we can talk solar, but like, I'm trying to think of other solar ones. Like the main one would be, when would you see the most savings? If you had to work, oh, this is an interesting one. If you had to advocate electricity sourcing from coal power plants or renewable clean energy, which one would you be picketing and advocating if you're out there on the streets?
Renewable energy.
Yeah, they would always say, well, I would advocate the renewable energy. It's clean. It's like, oh, okay. So by you paying for, and it tees you up, like it teed themselves up. They're like, so if I pay and fund this one, I'm now obviously on this side. So it's like, another one is like, these are not the can we pay questions, but they're really good like questions. Like, hey, if your utility company knocked on your door with a vest and said, hey, I'm pitching you on this plan, and we'll call it a forever going up by 6 to 8%, you never get the return on it, XYZ, you go and explain it and be like, they pitched you that plan. Would you sign up with that guy? And they're like, knowing what you know now, would you like, and that's a good one. Like, and if they say, so another one on solar that I like is, if they don't say green, like, would you be doing this because you're helping the planet? I like to like almost make them feel guilty, because they're like, oh, to save money. And I'm like, oh, well, let me ask you this. Like, are you somebody that like cares about the planet and like actually like recycles and wants like the oceans to get cleaner? And like, is that something that like you think about? Like, if we don't do something to reverse kind of the impact humans have made on the planet, as far as the growing cities and construction and all the pollution, all the other stuff, like, can you get behind that? And I challenge them, and they're like, well, yeah, I would get, it's like, oh, okay. Like, so are you doing anything today to like really advocate that? Or like, what do you do now to like actually show that you're behind that? And I challenge them. Like, I like to kind of give them a little bit of a sass on the environment, because it's a safe place to give sass. It's like, you can't debate it. They can debate money. They can debate making solar panels, but they can't debate like, how do we help accelerate the way that we get electricity? I've got another appointment I got to jump into real quick, so we got to kind of wrap this up.
This is amazing, by the way. Wow. So for solar, those are some really awesome solar questions. Would you be able to share me like, I guess, the standard Vivint can we pay questions, and like anybody else can just tailor them to their industry? That's
Yeah. I would just say, what would be the main reason, or no, do you consider yourself a vocal person where you like a product, service, you tell somebody about it, yes or no? And then I would say, when would you use this most? At home, away, or both? And then I would say, what would be the main reason you're getting the system? And then like, or and they would say, for protect my family or this or that, like, you know, and then I'd follow it up. Why do you say that? Or I'd follow it up more on a product feature of like, so the cameras, you'd want this and this and this, and the thermostat, you know, I'd find it more product specific or overview specific. That would be my 3 can we pay for alarms.
Are there more, or are those just like the 3?
I just do 3. So there's a sequence of like 8 or 9 that you could do early on in the sale. But I do just 3 at the end, kind of towards when I'm going to go into a close.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, this episode, like when it comes to just like self-awareness, being able to perform like at higher levels, you know, starting off with like a lot of the top reps, maybe any kind of like internal stuff to like get to 400 or 500 account reps. And then the CEO, and then like hundreds of real estate rentals, and then you've been featured on Forbes, and now you're working with like some of the biggest names in business, like Jordan Belfort, you know, Bradley. I think you and Bradley are going to speak at an event, by the way, and just the collaboration with your vision, and just kind of like paving a way that's like brand new, that it's just like a rocket ship, and then, you know, other people being drawn to that. That's just amazing. And then especially with D2D. So, dude, you didn't have to do this. I'm very appreciative and grateful. Uh, Thanks for stopping by on the Life by Design podcast, Sam.
Love it. Thanks for
Experts.
having me, man. Hopefully the listeners got some value out of this.
Later, man. Thank you, Sam.
See you, brother.